Good morning, Hoof listeners. Welcome to Saturday night or Saturday morning
Saturday
Hoof
morning.
podcast. Yes,
We're up with the cartoons this morning. Yeah.
that's correct. Saturday morning Hoof podcast, getting you ready for the LA Rams 425 game, which I feel like is a good time slot. So, how about the Bills? Right, we had a big win last week. Really,
Oh yeah.
like they've looked pretty good the past few
Statement.
weeks. Feels like the Bills are kind of peaking right now. Now I don't
Yeah.
know how much of that is San Francisco's not, the expectations are high, but maybe not as good as they were last year, or maybe not as good overall this year.
Yeah, I would say both of those things are true, but I look at it purely from a Bills standpoint and say that was a game in the snow, right? And we know that snow games can be totally unpredictable. The run
Hmm.
game is obviously, mainly where you're going to see production in those types of games. But from a Bills standpoint, that was one of the best snow games I have ever seen. The Bills basically did whatever they wanted to. They ran the ball effectively. That Josh Allen made a few ridiculous passes in that game, like it was in a dome, right? Like it was in a stadium.
Right, which is
Excuse me.
not always the case for the Bills in snow games, right? Like
Oh yeah,
I'm
I
thinking
mean
back to like the Colts. I'm not sure if they've had any recent ones. Nothing
you
comes to
couldn't
mind.
throw the ball, right? It just would.
Right, right. It's like you think, oh, the Bills have the advantage because they
No.
practice in the snow, but like it doesn't always come out that way on game day, right? So,
Yes, and
but this
to
time it
see,
did, right?
yeah, again, Josh Allen, he won Player of the Week, AFC Player of the Week for that reason. I think. I mean, he made the crazy play where he passed and then Cooper lateraled it to him, once in a lifetime play. But yeah, that was part of it. But I think more so it was just the combination of Josh Allen made it look like it was a normal game. 2 touchdown passes, 1 rush,
One
nothing.
receiving, don't forget.
Weather, what weather, right? Like that was crazy. Yeah, technically 1 receiving as well. So 4 touchdowns total. Yeah, incredible game for Josh Allen in the snow, and the run game, the offensive line, you have to hold and be able to do your job. And same could be said for the defense. Defense is at a much higher disadvantage, trying to line up in the snow and go after their guys, and you knew they were going to rely on the run game. Unfortunately for them, Christian McCaffrey got hurt on that first drive. He was gashing us in the snow to begin with, which, as Bills fans, we know slow starts, right? That tends to be what happens. So um, maybe the game would have been a little closer with Christian McCaffrey, but for me, focusing on the
Right.
Bills, I think on offense, they just did what they needed to do. And that game was so impressive from that standpoint. Not even just the margin of victory or, just doing that in that weather, controlling the game, still being able to execute your style of play despite the obstacles was the most impressive thing for me. And that tells me that this team is not only legit, but is ready for anything. And hopefully that comes to fruition and this ends up with a Super Bowl, right? That's the ultimate goal. So
Right.
clinch the AFC for the 5th straight time. That's great. That's
Right.
awesome.
Right.
But
I mean,
still,
I used to
bigger
read the
goals.
newspaper when I was a kid, and you're always
Mm-hmm.
looking for the X's and the Z's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
That's
And right
right.
now, the
Uh-huh.
Bills have an X and a Z, right? Clinch the division, clinch the playoff spot, and
It's a
then
pretty
I
good
think
place to
the
be.
Z used to mean you clinched the bye week, right? Clinch the conference.
There was a Y in there too somewhere.
The Y is
So
clinched wild card.
gotcha.
It's on NFL.com. It's different now.
Yeah.
Um,
And then the asterisk or something, maybe that was like clinched by
right.
an added piece
Clinched
to it,
by,
right?
right. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, good to see an X and a Z. And Bills have now won 7 in a row. Last 5 are 5-0, right? Um, that includes 3 non-conference wins, right? So team looking pretty good. How much of it is that the AFC East fell off? How much of it is the Bills are better? And then how much of it is Josh Allen just being more mature this year? I think those
Exactly.
are the
Yeah.
3 top storylines of why the Bills are going to get to 13 wins, which you predicted. I think I predicted 11.
Yeah. I mean, I'm that's another thing that I'm just like, I made it to one of the live events for the Shout podcast with Ryan Talbot and Matt Perino and got to meet them in person for the first time, which was cool. But I was on their show toward the end, and I said, he's like, "Hey, any bold predictions or whatever?" He said, "Look, I've made my predictions. This team is who I thought they were. Right? I'm not surprised by this. This is what I expected. Is it How I thought, some of it, yeah. Did I think, I had thought Curtis Samuel would have a bigger role, for example, but the team itself is doing exactly what I said and thought they would do. I mean, even on this show, Eric, you and I, one of your high concerns was, the backfield, we're going to get cash this year. And I kept saying to you, no, Sean McDermott is the coach of this team. When has he ever had a
Yeah.
bad secondary? No matter who's
Right.
out there, right? And,
well, there was a time this year, maybe it was like one of the first 3 games, I think there was 3 University of Buffalo players on the field.
That's right. You did.
I'm like,
say
we
that,
can't
yeah.
have this.
It doesn't matter though.
Nothing against the university; it's a great university, but like, if you're looking at for talent and defense, it's not it, right? But it's coaching. To your point, Sean McDermott, like it's more the system. These guys dive into their roles. They understand their roles. They're thriving in their roles. Jamarcus Ingram, for example, has really grown as a player. Cam Lewis has grown as a player.
Very much so, yeah.
Right? Because they've been in the system a number of years. You can tell, like, Jamarcus Ingram's put on a ton of weight, right? And
he's ready to go.
It shows on the field. So that really does come down to culture, coaching, even Bobby Babbage, who's been there a long time as well. The continuity, you know what I mean? You can grow every year in the system because you have something to build on the previous year. And that happens if you're there 5 years. I mean, obviously, you make a lot of gains, it seems like. So, again, I think looking at it from a purely talent perspective, I mean, this team, especially on defense, is so good at developing players that I underestimated that, right? So, again, credit to Sean McDermott. And we've seen this with guys like Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard. I mean, they're just very, very good at developing players in the Sean McDermott defensive system, right? Now, I think you're seeing some of that on offense as well. Right now, it's been a little more bumpy on the offensive side.
Yeah. But plug and play, fill in.
Right.
Fine,
But you do have Josh Allen, who's an incredible talent, who, again, every year, makes big jumps in certain areas, right? And I think that's really what comes down to being a successful quarterback, a great quarterback versus a good or above average quarterback.
Another thing that I've said about him from the beginning, right? He had this linear exponential growth curve that no other quarterback I've seen has done, where he literally fixes the issues and moves on and gets better and finds a way to get better. And even when we thought he reached his peak in 2020, he found a way to get better. Now he's lowered the turnovers, right? And he's just not putting the ball in dangerous situations as much anymore. And that is an awesome thing to have when you have such an elite quarterback, that he's just able to find a way to get a little bit better every year.
Right. And I think Emmanuel Sanders was on the Herd show with Colin Cowherd.
I missed that.
And he had a good point as well. I thought it was a really good point where when Emmanuel played with Josh was young. He's looking up to Diggs, looking up to Emmanuel, looking to them for guidance, And now with Diggs gone in particular, Josh is the leader. Everyone's looking to him for leadership.
Yeah.
And I think there's an extra when you're a leader, there's extra responsibility. Like you want to, if people are looking up to you, you want to do right by them. And I think that's kind of where Josh is this year, right? He wants to show that, like, I am a veteran. I know what I'm doing, and I'll take care of the football, right? Things like that. I'll make the right decision. You know what I mean? So I think that is Josh's perspective has changed a little bit, it seems like, and it's really paying off.
Right. And again, to our credit, something you and I talked about this offseason was the fact that because this offense is different, that might actually benefit Josh Allen, because they don't know, he's throwing to Diggs every time, right? It's more like, well, who's he throwing it to? Or are they running? Or is Josh going to run?
Right.
And that unpredictability just opens things up on offense. And we've definitely seen that come to fruition this year. I mean, how many times have they scored 30 plus points? A lot, right? So that's when you score 30 points. I mean, that's enough to win you games in the NFL, right? So again, the defense is holding true to what McDermott has done over the years. The offense looks very different and is doing it in very different ways. And exactly what I said in the preseason again, too, was I didn't expect a 1,000-yard receiver. I expected it to be everybody getting about 60 yards a game, basically. And that's pretty much what we've seen, right? Like, oh, yes, this guy gets 50, that guy gets 60. This guy gets 2 big catches for 2 touchdowns, but only has 30 yards. And it changes every single week. And even with a guy like Dawson Knox filling in while Kincaid is hurt, getting more playing time, he's doing that exact same thing. So it's a next man up mentality. Keon Coleman's been out. Curtis Samuel had a big game in there. It's been truly a pleasure to watch this offense do exactly what we knew they were capable of in the preseason.
Yeah. So to your question about how many times have they scored 30?
Oh yeah.
30 or 30 plus. It's 9 out of 12 games.
Oh my God.
And the last 4 games, they've had 30 plus points.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, last 5 games.
Ooh, that's pretty dang good, huh?
Yeah, very good.
Oh God, 5 in a row and 9 out of 12. Are you kidding me?
And there's
Like
really
that
only,
is
there's only 3 games they haven't scored 30, and that's Baltimore, Texans, and the Jets, and that was all in a row.
yeah, in the beginning of the season.
Right.
Yeah. So
Early in the season. So
that is quite remarkable. You know,
it
when your
is.
team is scoring that much at will against, I mean, these are good defenses too. These aren't like some of them are. I mean, you're not facing the worst defenses in the NFL and scoring that many. So that's an awesome place to be. And I expect them to fully continue that pace. We know the Rams this week. We got the Lions next week. We've got
New England.
the New England and Jets and New England. I mean, those are all games where I expect the Bills offense to do what it needs to do. So,
Right.
and maybe score 30 in every single one of those as well. Certainly capable of scoring 30 in every single one of those. I don't think that's a Bills take again at all. I think you could go to the national media and say that, and now those talking heads will say, yeah, the Bills will score 30 in every single one of those. Maybe the question is, will the Lions score more? You know, that's
Right.
the remaining question.
Yeah, that'll be a really fun game, honestly. And I think both teams, you're looking at it going, well, if we lose this one, that's okay.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's okay.
Exactly. I mean, in terms of the seeding, you still want to beat.
Right. Because
if you beat them, you're going to have a better shot at the 1 seed and hope that Kansas City falls in one of those games.
Right. But again, we'll take the 1 seed. That'd be great. Takes the pressure off that bye week and wild card, right? And putting Kansas City in a position where somebody could knock them out, I think is a huge piece. But again, if we just maintain 1 or 2, I think the Bills are going to be fine because you're not going to have to play Kansas City until the championship round.
Right.
So again, there's 2 opportunities for somebody else to knock out Kansas City.
We'll take it. I think we only need 1. Again, I maintained and said all along, and now I'm hearing this in the national media too, that Kansas City is going to lose their first playoff game. I said that in the preseason. I wanted them to be the 1 seed and then lose their first playoff game. I will be overjoyed if they're the 2 seed and lose their first playoff game. But I still think that they're just not built right now to win when it counts, and they're going to be more ego inflated going in.
It looks like they'd play Denver. Denver would have to travel to Kansas City. And they had a close game this year, right?
Sure.
Chargers potentially could be the team, or Baltimore. Still a lot of football left, but all 3 of those teams, I think, the Chargers and Denver know how to play Kansas City. Do they always come up short? Yes, they do. But they know this team better than any other team,
right? Division,
in the league. So, and then Baltimore, I just think is built to beat Kansas City. They're built really to beat anybody in playoff football if they can put it all together.
Exactly, on Sunday,
but
I don't trust Baltimore in the playoffs,
because they don't put it all together all the time, right? And it's frustrating if you're a Ravens fan. All right. So anyway,
the last point I wanted to make before we move on to this game was I am celebrating and loving all of the Bills fans dunking on social media against the terrible takes of the preseason. Because if you remember, I was shouting on this show that those were stupid takes, not even bad or whatever, completely ignorant, stupid, don't know football takes. If you pick the Jets to win the division, you're an idiot. And that's bottom line, period. You don't know football, because there was nothing that you could say reasonably other than, well, they have 3 good football players, yay, that they're going to win the division, because they've never shown anything otherwise. The Dolphins, you couldn't have predicted the injury, but again, predict them to beat the Bills, that's ridiculous. They haven't been able to do that. They've never beaten Josh Allen.
I think it's
against McDermott's defense and against this team. I was screaming it at everybody in the preseason, and we saw it all over the national media. Oh, the Jets. Oh, Miami. Oh, everybody's picking the Jets in Miami. Like, that was just such bad takes. And I am loving social media calling out not just the actual national media talking heads, but the people who believe them too, and were sharing their bad takes about how the Bills weren't going to be terrible. And some of my favorites are the ones that are like, oh, the Bills are only going to win 8 to 9 games this year max, and the Bills are going to suck this year. And it's like, you don't know this team. So shut your mouth and let us do the talking.
Oh, I mean, coaching and quarterback play. That's what you need to win the division.
And we've got that in aces compared to other teams.
That's what the Patriots did for years. That's what Kansas City is doing, and that's what Buffalo's doing as well. We know Miami's a soft team. That's been proven over and over again. Can't beat the big teams. Can't win in cold weather. you're not going to win games in the NFL in January if you can't win in
Right.
cold
So
weather.
how the
You know
hell
what I
were
mean?
those people predicting that Miami would win the division? When you
Right.
know
So there's
that.
that piece. But the Jets is a different. I think I had them second, and there's
My
no reason
God.
not
And that
to
was
be
one that I
high.
was so angry about.
Right. But you look around, and there's 7 playoff spots now. You think the Jets are one of the most talented teams on paper, right? Especially
Great.
because the year they had last year, they won 7 games
If-
without converting a third down.
If you
It was
remember,
like 5 games in a row
I
they didn't
compared them.
convert a third down.
I compared them to the Browns when Baker Mayfield was there, and everybody picked them to go to the Super Bowl because they had a better than expected season the year before. And I was livid about that then, and I was livid about the Jets now because they've just proven nothing. You can't beat anybody. You can't put it together. Your leader is a disaster, a tornado waiting to happen. I called them a shit show of an organization and the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL, and I was proven 100% right. Nobody else was saying that in the preseason because, oh, look at the good players they have. No, they are still exactly that. It starts with ownership. It starts with the leaders you have on the field. They were absent of those things. We weren't confident in their head coach, although he's shown signs as being a good defensive guy. They fired him, and then they got even worse.
Right.
So, it's just from an organizational standpoint, I just couldn't have it. They suck. Period. End of story.
Right. Well,
and I'm glad
it's
I was
deeper than just the roster and the talent. Right?
Yes,
their
100%.
problems run deep in that organization, like
Yes.
Cleveland.
And now they're stuck in what are they going to do next year? He's still under contract with Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't look like he's going to be back with them, but that leaves a void. What are you going to do at quarterback? What are you going to do with cap situation?
No, there's no plan. They've shown this year there is no plan.
Yeah. You win all in and you lose. Remember, again, I will honk my horn again here. When we were talking about possible destinations for Aaron Rodgers when he was still with Green Bay, I said, I hope he goes to the Jets because I would love to see him go there and fail because I thought he was already over the hill. And that has proven to be the point. He just can't get it done anymore. I mean, did you see that last play of the game? I mean, he wasn't even in it. Like, he wasn't even trying. You still could win the game. And he's like, meh, whatever.
It seems like arrogance, not buying into the system, right? Still trying to do all these, flashy plays.
And now they're stuck paying him a lot of money, and they're not going to see any production for it.
Right. And clearly, the locker room seems split on the Jets. Last point. Garrett Wilson, I thought, was having a good career early. I think you should have bought into that a little more. But now bringing in Devonta Adams, it feels like there's kind of a split in the receiver room. There's the Aaron Rodgers guys versus the existing Jets guys, right? They trade Elijah Moore away. I mean, there's just no plan there. Nope. And it's proven true over and over and over. So
we'll see what happens next there. But point is, Bills did what they were expected and should have done and won the division. And now we're on to the next goal. So that 1 seed and then maybe even Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, that's the expectation for sure.
But we can't let this be a trap game. We can't let this be a trap game.
Right. And looking at the Rams, I think first thing that comes to mind, Matt Stafford, very capable quarterback, even at his later years. Sean McVay, there's always a threat for them to out game plan you when he's the head coach, right? And the Rams, had a really rough start early in the season. They lost their first 4 out of 5. They did beat San Francisco during that time. But again, all close games, and they just came up short. I think they got blown out by the Cardinals, but the rest of them were pretty close. Since then, though, it seemed they go on a 3-game win streak, and then every other week they win-lose, right? They beat the Saints last week, lose to the Philadelphia Eagles the week before. So again, if you're looking at their team. So you're looking at their right. If you're looking at their schedule, they win the games they're supposed to win. A couple big wins over They got one over Minnesota, San Francisco I mentioned, but I think San Francisco's not where we think they are, where they should be. The rest are, games they should win. They go in overtime with Seattle, right? So then if you're looking at that and then you look at the Bills, really it's a game the Bills should win, right?
Yes.
If you're just looking back at how the Rams have performed against other teams, this is a game the Bills should win. And the line seems a little close for me, right? They're giving the Rams a lot of credit here, I think.
They are. I mean, and it's gone down. I think initially it was like -6. Now it's -3.5. I'm not sure what has led to that shift, but you better believe that I'm jumping on betting this one for sure, because I do think the Bills are capable of winning big, and we just talked about how they score 30 every game, and I watched the Rams play a couple of weeks ago, and the entire time in my head I thought Josh Allen is going to destroy this team. He is going to eat them alive. Their cornerbacks just were terrible in coverage. Their tackling was just terrible. And I'm talking defensively mainly for the Rams right now, but I mean, it was just like, although they hung in the game that I was watching, I can't remember which game it was. Although the offense did what they could and the defense, made plays, and I just kept telling myself, like, oh my God, the Bills are going to destroy this team because they can't do anything fundamentally right on the field. They're well coached. They've got a great quarterback that'll keep you in any game, just like you said a minute ago about the Bills. And now the rest of the team is kind of not at the level that they need to be. They're young. They're some of them are showing flashes, but that defense just looked like
Yeah.
kind of deer in the headlights still. They're young, they have energy, but they're
Right.
not always in the right spot. And every single play, Josh Allen is going to find the right spot to put that ball and eat you alive. And I think
Right.
that's going to hold true in this one.
Right. And I think everyone expected that with Aaron Donald retiring. The Rams are going to go through a kind of a rebuild on the defensive line. I do think there's a good core there. Jared Verse looks the part. Right. Byron Young looks like a really good player.
They've drafted really strong on defense and found players that will come in and play immediately and at least maintain, right? They're not as elite as they were with Aaron Donald, but they're still good, still respectable, I should say. They're gaining traction, and they will be maybe great players in a few years, but certainly not there yet.
Right. Yeah, and I think Bills had the advantage with that because, I mean, inexperienced defensive players going against a quarterback like Josh Allen, who can break tackles from the best players in the NFL, who can, outmaneuver you and roll right and make a huge play. I feel like that's going to be tough for a young player, a guy like Jared Verse who's on the edge going against Deion Dawkins. I mean, that's, I think he's going against like the hottest team in the NFL right now, it feels like. And that'll be interesting for a young player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and Jared Verse, who you mentioned, he showed up on the injury report with an ankle on Thursday and is questionable now for the game. Now, I think knowing how tight this game is, and another thing, it seems like every Bills opponent has been like, oh, they desperately need this win, right? Going back to like Indy, they desperately needed the win to stay in it. We beat them, right? San Francisco, they desperately needed the win to stay. We beat them. The Rams, they're right there. They're desperately need this win. Yep. And now, we'll see how this one turns out. But Jared Verse, because they desperately need this win, if he's even, 60% or whatever, as long as he's good enough to go, they're going to let him go. It's not one of those situations where the Bills are kind of in the opposite situation, right? Keon Coleman is questionable. He practiced this week. He looks pretty good. But will they hold him out for another week just because they can, right? They have that luxury right now. The Rams don't have that luxury. And I believe that if Jared Verse is even close, they're going to have to play him because that's,
right.
They need that production.
You're only one game out. Division's still in reach for them, right? They're 6-6.
Yeah. If Jared Verse doesn't play,
game out from Seattle,
that's going to be like just it won't be close.
The Rams are in the 10th spot, so they're 3 spots out of the playoffs, right? So they're in the hunt.
But it's super tight. It's within like a game and a half or something.
Right. Yeah. Buccaneers are the 8, Cardinals 9, Rams 10, 49ers 11.
Yeah, so it's very tight.
So these divisional games in the NFC West are very important this year.
Certainly going to decide it. Yeah.
So again, the Rams, though, looking at the percentages, playoff probability, even if they win this weekend, it goes from 19% chance to make the playoffs to 28%. So not huge.
Yeah.
Cardinals seem to have the advantage from the tiebreakers. Yeah. Cardinals, if they win this weekend at Seattle, 60% to make the playoffs. So.
Right. So, I mean, LA, the Rams are in a tough spot and they know it, and they have to win out and hope for some help. Right. And they're capable of doing that. That's the thing with this team, why I opened up with saying, don't let this be a trap game. You talked about Matthew Stafford, consistency at its finest, right? Just excellent quarterback play. You know what you're getting with him. And sure, he's aging, but he's still very good. And that, it helps when you have Puka Nacua and what's his name? Geez. Cooper Kupp to throw the
Mhm.
ball to, right? Those two guys are elite wide receivers.
They are.
One younger, obviously, and both coming off injuries, but playing very well. And those are the two guys he throws it majority to, and they can make plays. Again, I trust our cornerback
Right.
play.
They're super smart. They know the holes in the zone, right? They
Yeah.
put a lot of pressure on the corners on the outside. Matt Stafford's really, really good at, you know,
Yeah.
throwing the ball to the
Sliding.
outside. So that's definitely a challenge. But also, you got that off tackle run game with Kyren Williams.
Oh, yes.
That's something really to pay attention to. But I think the Bills have an advantage because they play Miami. There's kind of a similar style there. But I think Mike McDaniel, he's worked with Sean McVay in the past, right?
Was it McVay that he came
I
from?
can't remember if it was Shanahan or McVay, but anyway,
I
they
thought it
kind of
was
run
Shanahan.
those off tackle runs, and the way they design those is very unique. But I think the Bills playing San Francisco last week, played Miami twice this week. You're kind of looking at a similar system, so I think there's an advantage there to stop the run, and I think you force the Rams to pass and take your
Yes,
chances with
right.
the cornerbacks, right?
Yes.
I think that's really what you got to do. But if you let Kyren Williams have a good day, I think this one the Rams can then control the game, and that's where you get in trouble.
Right. And then I still trust the offense. So even if the Rams come out, say they win the toss, they take the ball, or they lose the toss, they take the ball, and they come down and score a touchdown. That's not going to surprise me or maybe anybody, because again, the Bills, for some reason, seem to start slow to games, and that'll help the Rams' momentum. But I fully expect when the Bills get the ball back, they're going to score, right? So then it'll be tied 7-7 maybe. And it's only going to take a matter of time. And when it comes to consistency, who's going to be more consistent? I think the Bills' offense is more consistent and the Rams' defense is more vulnerable, and vice versa. The Rams' offense is really good, but their defense is vulnerable. The Rams' defense, the Bills' defense will eventually make a play against this Rams' offense or stop them, I think, unless we let them run the ball down our throats, and that's not really kind of what they do. They're more of a balanced attack, spread the ball around type of offense. So I think, again, that tells me that every advantage is going the Bills' way, but you can't sleep on them. They have a ton of playmakers over there, right? Especially on offense, ton of playmakers. Their defense is vulnerable, as I've said a million times now. But
and the playoffs, like you made the point earlier, their playoffs start this week, right? And the Bills really we're locked up. They may rest a little bit,
Yeah,
they've been so good and won so many games that they're, do you from a locker room momentum standpoint, do you take a step back and just kind of hey, we're locked up, we won the division, let's just take it easy and then hopefully find a way to win here. But it's tricky because now you have Kincaid coming back, you have Coleman coming back.
Right? Well, you can almost they're both questionable. We don't know. They could sit them out for another week, knowing that they've played without those two guys the last couple of weeks and done very well, right? So it'd be okay if they're not 100% to say, okay, we'll wait one more week on this. But if they get them back, that'd be
great. Because then I was just thinking, then you could, if they're both playing, you could almost build your game plan around them, rest some of the other guys, right? Just ways to rest before we get to playoff football.
and the run game is going to be key here too. I think the Rams have given up. I mean, they gave up to the Eagles like 250 yards of rushing, right, in that game or something. That was the game that Saquon had really big numbers too. But just in general, they're vulnerable to the run game, which again, it opens up the passing game. But you're also going to see Josh Allen run. We know we're going to get Ty Johnson and Ray Davis in the action as well. But James Cook, I expect him to do consistency again, what he's done all season. He's going to find the open holes. He's going to be, average 5 yards a carry. He's going to, get a touchdown and, be consistent for this team and do what we do best. And that's gonna keep the game in your control rather than trying to go blow for blow with the Rams if they come out hot.
Yep, makes sense. So what do you got for a score? What do you think here?
In the Built in Buffalo chat this morning, I said, Bills 38, Rams 16, because I just think the Bills offense is going to absolutely dominate. And I trust our defense to hold and, do what they do to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, I think the Bills are going to put a lot of pressure on Matt Stafford, right? Not the most mobile quarterback. Defensive line's been playing really good. I think there's going to be added energy because you're coming from snow, bad weather in Buffalo, to beautiful LA and one of the most beautiful stadiums in the league. Also, Josh Allen, the engagement stuff, right? LA is the center for all that media coverage, close to his hometown, Fireball, right? Might have some family at the game. So I think, Josh is going to have a great game. I think it's going to be fun.
Oh, yes.
I think he's going to spread the ball around. I think they score at least 30, like we've talked about, because that's what they do every week. So I'm going to go 31-21.
Yeah, okay.
I think the Rams, keep it close early, but then kind of fall off in the end.
I'm okay with that. Just figures that this week I'm in like 9 leagues, this fantasy football leagues this year, right? Made the playoffs in all of them. At least, there's 1 week left in most of the leagues, but this week the playoffs start in one of my leagues. And of course, I'm going up against the guy who has Josh Allen as his quarterback. So my team has been highest scoring I've ever had in that league too. I'm like 250 points higher scoring than the next guy. It's crazy. And yet, I'm in a situation where I'm rooting for the Bills, but Josh Allen points will be going against me. And I know he's going to do well because I just said the Rams were so vulnerable. So yeah,
so you're on the let James cook train.
I mean, I think that is going to be part of the
run
game
the football.
Plan. Luckily for me, but it's more about the touchdowns, right? Like, I don't care if Josh has 300 yards, but maybe 2 rushing touchdowns for the Russian running backs and 1 passing touchdown. Hey, if Josh does I think Josh does legitimately have a chance to break the NFL record for games with 2 passing touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown. He tied Cam Newton in the last game, and now if he does that in this game, which I fully believe is possible, he will set a new NFL record, which would surprise nobody at this point. Yeah,
he's absolutely crushing it, as a pro, and it's really fun to watch because we were early on Josh. You know what I mean? And just to see the growth to where it is today is
exactly
absurd. All right, a couple other details for this game. James Cook is tied with Saquon Barkley and Joe Mixon for most rushing touchdowns.
Yeah,
11. Derrick Henry, David Montgomery are ahead, 13 and 12. Bills have won 15 straight regular season games in December, January since 2021, which marks the second longest such streak in NFL history, behind the Chargers, who had 19. Guessing that's probably the LaDainian Tomlinson years.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
The big story is the plus 17 turnover margin. That's leading the NFL, right? I don't think we've seen plus 17.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah. You end up in those territory. I mean, obviously you're doing well for yourself as a team, regardless of how good your offense is or not. When you give them the opportunity that many times, your defense is doing what it needs to do,
right?
And putting your offense in.
And it's showing. I mean, Josh has mentioned this last year. Like, hey, if I don't turn the ball over, we win every time.
Yeah,
and it seems to be what's going on.
Right. And the same applies here too. He's got to protect the ball, but again, that is just what we've seen from him this year.
Mm-hmm.
Another argument that we had to put to rest when people would be like, Josh Allen has a turnover problem. And I would tell them the same thing every time. Go look up every single Josh Allen interception and you score it as his fault or not his fault or just regardless of the situation. Right. And you would see that Josh Allen does not have a turnover problem, which now we're
it's crazy because, I mean, what do you have last year? 12?
I mean, it was something. Yeah. I mean,
it was a low number, like overall. I mean, but the expectations from whatever it is, the fans, media, whatever, is so much higher. Like 12's not that many, but he led the NFL in interceptions, right?
Right. So that was their talking point.
Right. But it's like, there's still,
remember,
all quarterbacks have improved in that area over the years.
His stats blew Lamar's out of the water, and Lamar won MVP because his team won games. So now Josh is leading in a lot of categories, and his team is winning. So I just don't see how they don't make him MVP this year, but that's another story.
Okay, a couple things about the offensive line. We're talking about continuity on the defense. The offensive line the last 2 seasons had tons of continuity, and it's really showing. Josh Allen's been sacked just 13 times in 2024. It's the fewest in the NFL this season. The Bills' 37 sacks allowed since the start of the 2023 is also the NFL best. So that's 2 good seasons from the O-line. That's showing up as well. And last one, per NFL Next Gen Stats, the Bills' O-line has been especially effective getting push up the middle. The Bills' running backs have been contacted behind the line on just 28% of runs between the tackles, second in the NFL. And we all know about Sean McDermott's 8-0 record after the bye week. So good time to be a Bills fan right now. All systems go, right?
Unbelievable. So hopefully we continue that momentum and again get the job done. Do what you need to do to keep taking that step to the playoffs.
All right, so let's switch over to our picks.
Let's do it, baby. Lots of good games. We missed the Thursday night game. I was on the Lions. I picked the Lions to win. I also picked them -3.5. The thing about the Lions, we do play them next week, so I wanted to mention this too. I mean, we'll get into it more then, but the Lions have looked vulnerable. Every time I've seen them in the last 3 weeks, they've allowed teams to come back on them. They've had a big lead and allowed teams to come back and tie it and make it closer than the game actually needs to be. And again, I don't think they can maintain that against the Bills. The Bills are going to slap you in the face and come back with a big lead. So
it'll be a good game.
It will be.
I think the Lions are banged up on defense is some of that, right?
Exactly. They have like 13 guys on IR. It's insane. 13 guys on IR on defense.
Right.
That's tough.
But the offense is playing so well, and
exactly.
They're rolling the dice a lot, right? 4th and 1 on your own 30.
Oh yeah, and for the win.
But if you get those, then you're going to win the game, obviously. But like we saw it with the Packers, like the Packers had no business being in the game, but they go for it on 4th and 1, don't get it at their own 30. Packers are right back in the game. So it's like a little too aggressive, right? Some of that, but again, they keep rolling the dice, and they're a 12-1 team, so you can't really argue against it right now.
That's very good. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so here we go. Cleveland Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cleveland +6.5 at Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson really has been playing well. I mean, he's starting to get the statistics to go with the quarterback play, right? At first, I think it was more manage the game, don't turn it over, make a play here or there. Now it seems to be more and more through the pass game for the Steelers.
Yes, and they've again been in games and found ways to win. And look at their record, 9-3. I definitely did not think that's where they would be. But the one game that they faltered and got embarrassed was against the Browns a few weeks ago, right? And now they play them again, and the question is, will it be deja vu all over again for the Steelers team, or will they punch back? And obviously this game is in Pittsburgh. So my expectation is, although we've seen that the Browns can put points on the board, I mean, Winston still had 4 turnovers in the game against last week.
Right.
So I do think that Pittsburgh's defense is going to take advantage of that. So I'm picking the Steelers to win. Steelers -6.5. I think they win by a touchdown. And yeah, the Browns, although they've been able to hang with some teams, still not impressing me overall. And against the Steelers defense, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, and I think the Steelers at 9-3, there is no playoff clinching scenario this weekend, I think, because Baltimore's just right behind them. But yeah, a lot of teams do have scenarios, but Pittsburgh not one of them. And I think with the game, Jameis Winston, man, what entertainment value is super high. Even like to watch him on the field.
Oh,
he's not
so
afraid.
Fun. Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
Not afraid, right? But with that comes the turnovers, and I feel like a team like Pittsburgh with Mika Fitzpatrick and company, they'll get their turnovers, but then the Steelers on offense, they're not going to give you the ball back, right? So I think that's difference in the game, and I think Steelers win by multiple scores.
Big one.
All right, Jacksonville at the Tennessee Titans. Looking at top 5 picks in the draft, right? Who has the better shot to get Travis Hunter?
Both of them look similar in record, but when you're talking about competing here, the Jaguars are going in the tanking direction. They just put Trevor Lawrence on the IR. He got hurt. but they're also saying, hey, look, we don't need you to play the rest of the year. The Titans have been actually playing well and staying in games and still scoring points and at least looking like they have a heartbeat, but still losing games. So I think the Titans win this one, handedly, because the Jags just haven't shown anything. And now that Trevor Lawrence is out again,
Right.
I mean, I just don't trust them. So if the Titans are at home, I think the Titans win by 2 scores. So this one, you'll find this in my pick 6 this week because I definitely think the Titans have.
You just feel for Mitch Morris, Gabe Davis. I mean, going to Jacksonville again, they're almost like the Jets, where it's like so surprising they're this bad, right? But again, they've shown some flashes with Lawrence. There's a lot to work on there, but without Lawrence, I don't see a chance at all. So I like Tennessee. They'll rely on Tony Pollard, and I think that's enough to get them a win here. All right, Saints at Giants. Saints are -5 going into New York. New Jersey.
The Giants. Oh man, the Giants. Definitely taking the Saints -5 here. The Giants play horribly at home. First of all, they're like the worst home team over the last 5 years, I swear, just by eye. And I think the Saints have slowly been showing that they still have good pieces, right? Carrs still can throw the ball anywhere. And they still have a run game. And I just think the Giants, even if they wanted to win something, they're not capable of it at this point with where this team is at, especially at the quarterback position. But really, you look all over this team and there's just like a lack of effort and heart and everything, even against a division rival in the Cowboys last week. So I just think the Saints pound them into the ground and put them out of their misery here. So give me the Saints -5. I think they win by multiple scores again. And this one will also be in my pick 6.
Right. Yeah, the Giants are just such a disappointing season for them. I mean, my big question is, does the GM head coach survive this year? That's going to be a tough one.
It seems like it's so far, right? I don't know, right? Maybe just the coach, one or the other. Maybe
you got to be in a position to take a top quarterback. That's just where you're at now.
Yeah.
And if you believe Daboll can develop a guy,
class.
It's not. Right.
So you have to trade for somebody around the league. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but
I've said it all along. If I'm the owner, you got to get the Saquon Barkley thing's too embarrassing. You got to start fresh, in my opinion. Anyway, I think the Saints win this one. Giants have no identity at this point. It's just get through the season, right? And I think the Saints are still trying to prove, hey, we are more competitive than our record shows. They've been in a lot of games.
Yeah,
they've won a lot of games by a large margin. Just haven't been able to get it done this year.
To your point, if the Giants do decide to move on, they would start with a new head coach and a new GM, and at least have a year to reset, because we know that the quarterbacks in this draft are, not highly touted. They could bring in a veteran for a year, suck again, and then start the real true reset for that team. But
really, Giants have been doing that strategy for
exactly. They didn't really do that. So but Daboll and Shane, they kept Daniel Jones, and that has turned out to be the downfall, right? So we'll see which way they end up going. I think ultimately, my prediction is right now that Daboll stays, and maybe Shane does too, but I don't know.
That's a tough one. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
Anyway, you'd like to see him stay, but I mean, I just always remember Daboll and McDermott not getting along towards the end there. There's that little media storm about them fighting, but it's like, hey, building a culture in a team is extremely difficult. So when you have a guy that can do that, show some respect. I think that's showing as Daboll being the head coach. All right, Raiders at Buccaneers. Raiders +6.5 going to Tampa. Again, a lot of coverage about Shedeur Sanders going to the Raiders. I think that's a good fit. I like that, but the Raiders got to keep losing. Make sure they get that top 3 pick.
Exactly.
Brock Bowers, though. Can we just mention Brock Bowers real quick?
Phenomenal guy.
He's a rookie of the year, right? Pretty sure he's
on offense.
I mean, they probably give it to Bo Nix because how often do you see a quarterback?
I was going to say that quarterbacks tend to get the nod.
But man, Brock Bowers looks great.
He does, for his position especially, right? He's been playing very elite tight end play. But he's basically the number 1 pass catcher there, right? Wide receiver.
Right. Yeah.
So
I have in fantasy, he's over 30
Oh
points
yeah,
a game,
unbelievable. He plays so well. Yeah, I have him in a couple leagues as well. And the Bucs, unfortunately, haven't been inspiring confidence with their play of late, but still have the weapons and pieces to get it done. And I that's why I'm picking them in this game, -7,
Yeah.
-6.5. I think they win by 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, give me the Bucks here. I just, love. I think at home they play better. They're gonna find a way to get this win that they should get.
Right. Bucks 1 game out of the playoff race. Let's see, where's Atlanta 6-6, Bucks 6-6, so that really it's tight, right? Atlanta's really shown some vulnerability the past few weeks, and I think Tampa's still in it to win the division, right?
Yes,
I think this is a game they're supposed to win. And I think they go in there and get things done. Mike Evans playing. I know he's on the injury report this week, but he's playing this week, and I think that's makes such a huge difference with a receiver like that on the field, especially Bucky Irvin.
He's been
really giving the Bucks a run game because we know they were 32nd last year, so that was a main focus going into this year. It looks like that's paying off. All right, NFC West, Seattle plus 2.5 at Arizona. Very important game here. Seattle seems to travel well, right? A lot of their losses have been at home this year. So I like Seattle in this one. I think they're the more balanced team. They're I want to say more experienced in these big games, right? I like Seattle's roster. I'm actually surprised they're not up 2 games, 3 games on the rest of the division, but they've lost some head scratchers this year, which puts them in this position. So I like Seattle in this one.
Yeah, I actually picked the Cardinals to win. I just think that they've been playing well, but again, been in close games, lost a couple tough games. Both these teams are playing so similar right now, and I think it could go either way. It wouldn't surprise me if Seattle wins. I had Seattle as a playoff team in the preseason, but Arizona is doing their thing right now. So I'm picking Arizona to win, and -2.5. I think they win by a field goal. So it's close, but
right.
Yeah, I'm money-wise, gambling-wise, not quite touching this one because I do think it's close and could go either way.
I mean, I've watched the Cardinals a lot this year, and they're frustrating for me to watch.
Yeah,
Kyler Murray drives me crazy. There's guys open throwing the ball.
Yeah,
hesitates a lot, wants to run, but it's like, man, there's some good pieces on this Arizona offense. It's just I feel like they're not seeing the field as well as they could. Right, I think that ultimately hurts them.
Agreed.
All right, talked about the Bills and Rams. I feel like Bills are going to pull that.
What was the line here? Is it -3.5 still?
-3.5.
Okay.
Yep. Bears 49ers. Bears plus 3.5 going to San Francisco. San Francisco finally getting home after playing 2 cold games in the north and getting blown out twice. So yeah, good opportunity here for the 49ers.
Yes, but the Bears have been showing signs of life as well. Caleb Williams playing much better of late. The 49ers obviously not coming off a great game and losing Christian McCaffrey, also putting their backup running back on the IR. Now, the kid Guerrero who scored versus the Bills is now their starting running back, presumably. This is a tough game for the 49ers. Ultimately, I think the 49ers win, but I'm taking the Bears with the 3.5 just because, I think it's going to stay a close game, at least within a field goal. So I'll take the Bears with the points, hopefully, but predict the 49ers to pull it off a close game.
49ers now lost 3 in a row. Bears have now lost 6 in a row. Bears have yet to have a win on the road.
Tough.
All their wins came at home.
But they have been playing at home. Caleb Williams says, 3 touchdowns in the last.
Sure, a lot to build around there, but I mean, there's growing pains, right? When Josh Allen's a rookie, do you really care about winning? I mean, sure, you like to win, but really you just want to see the quarterback get better.
Right. I just saw a story that Keenan Allen said that he would be glad to come back to the Bears if they offer him a contract.
Yeah.
So interesting.
They got to get this coaching hire right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, team's been
tough
bad
decisions
for so long.
To move
it's
in
like
the right direction.
It's like the fan base deserves like a winning team here. It's been too long. All right. Chargers, Chiefs, big one. Sunday night football. Chargers +4 at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, let's start out by saying there's no reason to not take the Chargers +4. Kansas City has been close in so many games that you just can't trust them to get the job done and put a team away. So I'll take the Chargers with the points. Chargers have been playing well, run game, but they've been giving up a lot of points as well. Unfortunately for the Chiefs, their offense hasn't shown that it can consistently get it done to score lots of points. So predictably, I so badly want to take the Chargers, but we get burned every single time with the Chiefs and with the Chargers. So I guess give me the Chargers again, but I know what's going to happen. Last drive of the game, flag thrown on the play, Chiefs get into scoring range, Chiefs score a touchdown and win by 2 or something stupid. So yeah, I'm taking the Chargers. Not confidently, obviously.
This is a big game for the Chargers, right? Because
Very big.
Go to 9-4, keeps you a game up on Baltimore, and really you're not going to win the division most likely, but just solidify a playoff spot. This game's kind of big.
Yeah.
Again, the Chargers get close every single time. I'm hoping Jim Harbaugh is the guy that can actually win in Kansas City, right? Because the Chargers have been close every time they play in Kansas City. It's so close. And really, to beat the Chiefs, just get up 2 scores. That's just what you got to do. Again, looking back at this season, last season, I feel like the Chiefs are going to win this by 3, 27-24. That's just how it goes, and that's how it's been. So I think Chargers cover, Chiefs win.
Tough.
All right, Monday Night Football, last one on the slate. Bengals at Cowboys. Again, would be a good game, but 2 disappointing teams.
This is the Monday Night Football. This is why they need to start flexing games later in the season, make everything flex, right? Because this is a tough Monday Night Football game, knowing that the Bengals are basically out of it now, and the Cowboys are, without their starting quarterback and not the same team at all.
What do you think? So we know the Cowboys' issues, right? What about the Bengals? It seems
the
like
Bengals
they should be better.
It really is. I mean, I've watched a lot of the Bengals games just because they've been on TV here, it seems. And the one thing that it's that X factor part of it, right? Like, I don't think you can blame the quarterback, right? Burrow has played well and beyond expectation, exactly. But again, he's had to because their defense has been not so great. But we knew that coming in, that they were going to win based on their offense and not their defense, and their defense just had to kind of hold. But it seems like they're the anti-Chiefs. Every little thing that can go wrong has gone wrong against them. It comes down to a special teams play. Their kicker misses a field goal, right? It comes down to, a kickoff and the ball doesn't bounce their way. Whatever it is, I mean, it's been at least 6 or 7 games of the 8 losses, I'd say, that could have gone the Bengals' way with just one little extra thing or one little play. And when you're in that many super close games and they're all not going your way, that's more than just an overcorrection. That's something on the team that is wrong. And for me, it's that X factor. Is it the coach? Maybe you could blame the coach here and say, look, this team has all the pieces, has clearly shown they can get it done on the field, but just when push comes to shove, they find a way to lose almost. Yeah. And it's been frustrating. That being said, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the last 2 seasons, the Bengals have started super slow.
Yes, right. And
2 and
turned
4,
it on.
Whatever it is, 2 and
that seems to be a Burrow thing. Yeah.
But again, it's like, that's too hard to overcome. Like, they've done it, which shows that, their quarterback's good, the team's good. But again, they did that again this year. It's too much to overcome year in and year out.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that the tough division they're in, and taking a step back in the running game, I think that's costing them this year, right? And the defense is just basically not playing up to their standard.
Yes, totally bad.
They're done.
Not playing well. And then in this matchup, you have a similar thing going on, right? The Cowboys, also extremely disappointing season. Lots of questions there. Will the coach be fired? What's Jerry Jones going to do next? We just don't know with that organization. But the Cowboys right now are also playing a team that had super high expectations on both sides of the ball. Their defense has been way underperforming, but getting gashed in the run game. And the Bengals can put points on the board. That's the one thing they've done consistently this season. And I just think Dallas is going to be too vulnerable in this game. I'm picking Cincy to win. I think they win by multiple scores. Dallas's offense, I think they put together a few plays and can score. Since they've gotten Cooks back, they've been, better in the pass game there. And, I'm taking Cincy minus 5.5. I think they find a way to get it done. Dallas will score because Cincy's defense is so bad. But I'll take the over in this game as well. But I'm taking Cincy.
Yeah, I'm taking Cincy as well. I just think that offensive intensity is going to be tough for the Cowboys to match, right? Cincinnati, with Joe Burrow. They're going to score points. They're going to move the football up and down the field. I just don't think Dallas can match that. Even though Bengals defense has not been playing great, the firepower on the offense for the Cowboys just is not there, right? So, I'll take the Bengals in an easy win. All right.
Good slate of matchups this week, though.
It is.
Tomorrow. I'm so used to it being Thursday night. We're here on a Saturday morning.
Right.
Excuse me. Yeah, and that should be the games are already tomorrow. So let's do it.
It's gonna be a fun day. Really that Chargers Chiefs game is the one I'm really looking forward to.
I know, right? And we get to
it's gonna
watch
tight.
the 1:00 games. That's where most of the games are. Then the Bills are at 4:25, so we can focus on that. Then we get the night game. That's going to be a super great
meaningful game for the Bills. They're always fun to watch. Since there's no, can't watch Miami Jets or anything like that, so you have to just watch all the Kansas City.
Those
games.
are the ones that matter. Yep, and we get to this week because it's on national TV, and the order of it flows very nicely. So
it does.
Hopefully, I'm collecting my money from the wins along the way here in my pick six and all that. But my pick six has been doing phenomenally since week 6. We're at like a 76% clip. Insane numbers. Yeah. So make sure you stay tuned for that too, because that's been working. I always put it out on Twitter and social media. So
that's Anthony Romeo New York NY. Post on Twitter
and Blue Sky.
I mean, because we do the show together, I have to pick against you sometimes, but I'm tempted just to copy your picks.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal this year, and they come to fruition for sure. So let's keep on winning. Woo, woo. And it starts with our Buffalo Bills for sure.
Only a few weeks left.
That's right.
Yeah, January's
coming.
Also, college football playoff. That's going to be so fun.
Yeah. How about my Syracuse Orange, baby? They had that huge win over Miami to basically knock Miami down a peg and knock them out of the ACC championship.
That hurts.
A team that went from a bye week in the college football playoff to now out. I mean, that's and it was a great game by Syracuse. I mean, we handled them very well.
That was a good game.
Disappointed ultimately that in the early season when we lost games that we shouldn't have, Syracuse, I was so upset because I said that could cost us getting to the college football playoff, and it really did.
Had a chance.
We would have been in the ACC championship. So, it would have been a lot of fun if Syracuse could have made that, but we're still looking at, getting some respect. I thought they should have been ranked along the way too, and they weren't, but getting some respect. And now seeing the new college football playoff format should be fun this year.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Syracuse is currently 22nd.
Yeah, right. Now ranked.
We're next to the Colorado Buffaloes, which we root for.
How about that? Yeah, that's our team too. Yeah. Go Buffs.
Okay, so big game. Oregon, Penn State this weekend, going to be huge. But really just looking forward to that college football playoff system. That's going to be so fun to watch.
Yes.
Definitely keep an eye on that.
Expanded, and that's the way to go, ultimately. You got to give more teams a shot. Root for
Bills
the underdogs. I'm rooting for the low seeds.
Right. Bills will be picking 30th, so I guess we don't need to do too much draft research yet. But,
yeah, that's right.
These playoff games
remember, we were excited about that Minnesota pick in the second round, and now that's looking like it's going to be a low pick too. But that's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Yep, that's okay. We got a good core right now. So
that's right.
All right. Thanks for tuning in with us on this Saturday morning. Enjoy the games. If you watch college, enjoy the college football today. And go Bills.
Go Bills, baby. Thanks for kicking it with us.
See you next week.